Imagine building 25 different products. Today we're talking to John Rush, who's the founder of 25 different companies, which is crazy. He is the ultimate product engineer. We're going to hear his story today. If you don't follow him, John Rush on X and LinkedIn, you absolutely should. Great follow, learning how to be a bootstrapped founder and software engineer. To survive and thrive, you must adopt a product-driven mindset. And we're back for another episode of Product Driven. This is your host, Matt Watson. Very excited to be joined today by John Rush. A lot of you may know him from X, formerly Twitter, LinkedIn. You see his content everywhere. Very famous kind of bootstrapper. I don't know if he'd want to be called an indie hacker or not, but he is the founder of 25 different startups, serial tech entrepreneur, been doing this for over 15 years. So, John, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt.
Do you like that term indie hacker or no?
I liked it 2 years ago, but now it seems like people use it to call someone names like, these indie hackers.
Were you one of the original indie hackers though? I mean, you've bootstrapped 25 different companies here on X. I'm sure talking about it every day.
Yeah. Well, I started my first bootstrap project in 2022, I think, or 2020 maybe. So I'm not the original. I think Peter Levels, Danny Postma, and a few more others, they started in 2016, 17, 14, some of them. But I think I was there before it was popular. So when I just entered that, the whole group was like 100 people. So it was very small on X. And I remember like the best tweet would get maybe 1,000 views or 2,000. Like it was so small.
Well, so let's talk about your journey. So your background as a software developer, been a software developer for a long time. You mentioned to me you've been the CTO of several venture capital backed companies, and then I guess decided to get out of that and go to the bootstrap route. So I guess my first question for you is, what is your take on kind of going the VC route versus the bootstrapping route? You've clearly been on both sides of this. So as a founder who has been on both sides of this and a CTO who's been on both sides of this, tell us about that life.
Yeah, so I started as bootstrap founder on my first year, and then I sold my first startup. Then I went into VC-backed world for 8 years, and then I'm back into bootstrap world for 7 years, right? So I've been in both, and the biggest difference that I can tell is that when you're VC backed, your KPIs are different and your brain is wired differently. So when I moved from my first bootstrap project, where my obsession was all about my customers and my profits, and when I moved to the VC backed world, I was obsessed with my next VC round, my network, the media coverage, the conferences I go to, etc. And the users and profits were number last and one after last, right? So it was exactly inverted. And that was not just me, that was the norm there. Because you raise pre-seed and then you have to start raising seed round right after, and then you have to go for the next round. So
that's an interesting insight. You're on this treadmill of chasing money and not focused on the customers.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of works, and a lot of people do that, and they end up exiting and making money at the end. So basically, if you run VC-backed startup, you have to really understand that the money there lays in the exit. That's it. There's no more money there, only exit. But since I came from bootstrap world, I thought that at some point we will start making money. We will start making profits. So I thought like eventually, and I was wrong. And actually I was sabotaging my companies because of that, because I thought we have to eventually start making money.
I love that insight. That's an interesting insight. So tell me, you have since created 25 different companies, all bootstrapped. I guess my first question is for you, like, where in the world do you come up with all these ideas? How do you now manage 25 different products that you've built?
When I started bootstrapping with my first product, I had this plan where first I wanted to bootstrap forever. So I was not planning to go back to the VC back world, and that's why I had to figure out a way to do it in a cost-efficient way. And the biggest costs in startups are people. So if you hire people, you pay them salary, it's really expensive. And that's why I thought I have to replace as many people as possible in my ventures moving forward so that it's cheap and I can run them using my own money and profits. And that's why coming up with ideas was super easy. So I had a list of people I usually hire in my startups, and now I don't want to hire them anymore. So what do? I build products to replace them. And then it's hard to replace the entire person because people do more than one thing. So then I had this kind of chart where I had people and I had their micro jobs under them, and it was 120 jobs basically. I came up with 120 typical jobs done by people in my typical startup. And I started just building one by one based on the best ROI, where small effort gives you high output. And I just went one by one. So all the ideas I'm working on, I generated them in one day, basically, when I made that map. And now I'm building one every few months.
So across these 25 products, like how many have you created that didn't make it, that you ended up shutting them down? Or what is the success rate of these? Like, how do you determine like, hey, we're not getting enough traction with this, we're going to turn this one off? Like, how do you do that part of it?
So ironically, everything that I came up with in that map worked out. So with zero failures, only success. So, but at the same time, while I was building startups, I built some things outside of the map just because I thought those are good ideas. For example, I built one tool for hosting AI-generated websites because I thought like people will create software or they will generate code inside ChatGPT or other tools, and they want to paste that code into somewhere and run it. I thought it's a good idea, but it failed terribly and nobody ever bought that. But it wasn't part of my map. So basically, every time I went outside of my map, building something that I thought will be good, it failed. But whenever I built something from this jobs to be replaced, it never failed because I was the user myself right away. And then if I'm the user, the chance that the other solopreneur or bootstrap founder won't find it useful is very low. It's almost impossible, basically, because I'm the ideal user of my products. And if I love it, why would others not love it?
Well, but let me ask you this. Is there a certain minimum revenue you have to get to, or otherwise you're like, this is just a distraction. Like, I don't even want to mess with this anymore.
Yeah, I have products where the competition is so high, or there are other tools doing the same thing for free, that I don't see me making a lot of money on those products. But at the same time, revenue isn't the only metric I use now because I have a lot of products, and some products, they don't generate a lot of revenue, but they bring a lot of leads and they bring a lot of people into the system, and then they channel them further into other tools where they pay.
Some are marketing at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I would say most of my tools are the marketing assets rather than revenue assets.
So do you have two or three that are really the 80% of the revenue?
Not two or three, like seven. So 7 tools are making 90% of the revenue. And then the rest make 10%, and they're mostly bringing the users in.
So tell us real quick, what are those 7 tools?
Yeah, so it's a unicorn platform that's kind of the core of this as the website builder, and people start with the website, so that's where the journey of a founder starts. I have now almost 600,000 users on the unicorn platform, so it's big, and it's bringing a lot of people into the system. Then the second one is SEO bot. It's generating blog articles. Then the third one is listing bot. It lists you on web directories. Then index rusher is number 4. It helps your pages to be indexed. And then it's count visits. It's number 5. So it's analytics, and it just does it across everything, not just web, but also Stripe, Paddle, the SEO analytics, everything. And then number 6 is SaaS Emailer. So it's a tool to send emails to your SaaS users and also just campaigns. And the last one is Tiny Ads. So just fresh tool I launched last week. It's basically, I'm trying to reinvent the ad network, but do it only for B2B SaaS. So basically I picked B2B SaaS and kind of B2B tech and only for this niche. And it's working really well. It was my best launch ever, actually. So none of my products grew so fast as this one. But again, like now I have more followers and bigger audience, so everything I launch grows faster than it grew a year ago or 2 years ago. So these 7 are the biggest, and then everything else is kind of smaller.
So what's interesting about all of your products, it highlights that it's possible to go create a product in these spaces where there is a lot of competition. There are a lot of other tools, but you can still find your niche, right? You can still get your, part of the market and be successful. You don't have to be first to market. You don't even have to have the best product in the market. You can have, your segment that you're really focused on. But I think all too often people are also scared of competition. Like they think, oh, well, so-and-so is already, the top player in this space. I don't want to compete with WordPress. Why would I create this unicorn thing or whatever? How do you think about that? Does competition scare you at all? You're like, I'm just going to go build a product, and if I, like you said earlier, if it's something that I would use myself and I would like it, then I'm sure other people will like it.
Yeah, I think it's there's so many details in every market and every use case that if you perfect your product for that use case and for that niche and for that segment, it will look like it's the same as all the other products, but it will actually be very, very different and very, very special. So in my case, like the best example is probably like Unicorn platform. Like there's so many website builders, like so many. Like every day there are 5 new launching, and they're unicorns, actually unicorns, like Webflow and others. But I target busy founders building certain things, having certain expectations, so that the product becomes unique. Like for example, you can go to Webflow and Framer, and you can do a lot more than any unicorn. But at the same time, you can also break things. So if you don't have good design taste, you will actually break things and your website will not look good. So you'll have to find a designer. So those tools are great if you have a designer using them, or at least helping you. Where I thought like a typical solopreneur isn't a designer, and a typical solopreneur doesn't care that much about all the fancy things. They just want to launch their website quickly, and that's who I build it for, right? And same goes to other tools. So I think people should not be afraid to build something that looks like all the other products, as long as they don't compete with all the other products. So I do not compete with Webflow. So like typical use case when people use Unicorn is so different that they can't use Webflow for that. So right. I'm not competing. But if I went and competed with Webflow and let you build everything like website for flower shops and everybody, that's impossible. I will lose the competition because they are just better at that.
Yeah, I think that's the key is identifying where you can be strong and unique and have your own niche, right? So let me ask you this. So you have these 25 products. Are they all in the same tech stack?
Yeah, because I started by building Mars X, and Mars X is the stack for all these products. So I built the product to build the other products on this product. Right? Kind of that was the path. And also it helps me a lot because one of the cool things about Mars X is a thing called micro apps. So it has a lot of micro apps within. So whenever I build a new product, I actually reuse a lot of the things from the other products through these micro apps. That's why I can build things really fast, like really fast, because like 90% is already there, and the only 10% is to complete in most cases. And also, since these micro apps are shared across all the products, when I improve one micro app and I add something there, then it's added to all my products. So basically, I have a lot of products, and people would think, wow, he has like 25 repos on GitHub, but in reality, it's not that. So it's almost like one product, because the code base is almost one code base for all the products.
Really? Oh wow. What technology do you use for all this? Is it all JavaScript or
Yeah, all Java, TypeScript.
okay? Oh, JavaScript all the way down. So one thing you mentioned earlier that I think is a really interesting insight, and so for those who are listening to this that are engineering managers or founders, we all seem to really focus on the software, the technology, how the technology works, and you're very focused on something else that I thought was interesting. It's like, when you're designing a product and developing product, you are focused more on the UX than anything else. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think we are in a world where everything is already there. So if you don't care about UX, there is product solving every problem in the world. Like almost every problem is already solved. But the reason we don't think every problem is solved, because we don't understand most of the products, and we don't know that they have the solutions for the problems, because the UX is not clear. And I think that's why, like, the users in the old world, these were employees in B2B world, who these employees were paid for the job, and they were taking super serious, and they would install software, they would read the manual and the guide, they would watch the videos, so they would learn the software and they start using. In today's world, nobody's going to do that. Like, people are spoiled, people want everything to be like an iPhone, even at their job. Even at their job, they don't want to learn stuff. And that's why, if your tool is not as obvious as iPhone when it comes to UX, then people just gonna say to their boss that this tool is not good enough, it doesn't do the job. And the boss will not come in and check whether that's true or not, and they will gonna look for other tool. That's why I realized that almost all business to business tools ignore UX. They only focus on features, and I do the opposite. So I focus more on UX, and I have less features, but I try to make them so easy to use, so obvious, that people just, feel like that's strange. Like, I've never seen B2B tool being so easy to use. And people get shocked. And when somebody's shocked in a good way, they just can't stop themselves from, sharing to a friend or going to social media and putting the screenshot there. I remember one of my tools, I was building SEO bot with my friend, so it's kind of complicated tool. So I involved my friend there, and he built all the cool stuff there, and he asked me, so it's time to launch it, and I'm like, no, we have to redo the whole UX, because this is impossible for people to understand. And it was hard to convince him, but I managed, and I told him, when we launch this tool, our goal is that people will screenshot this and share it on Twitter praising the UX. And if we get there, we won. Because people will not praise the SEO part of it, because like nobody wants to tell everybody they're using an AI tool for SEO, because that's kind of slightly embarrassing. And he was like, all right, let's see. And that's what happened. So when we launched, the tool went viral, and it went viral because people were sharing its UX as, look,
because it's like it's chat, right? It looks like a terminal.
Yeah, it's like a terminal. It's like a chat. It looks strange. Like, it was interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because the world is so boring. Like, everything is the same, complicated, and there's no art kind of in it. And here it was interesting. And the same happened with Tiny Ads. I launched 7 days ago. A lot of people love the UX and the way you onboard, because a lot of people have tried ad networks where it's a lot of steps, a lot of forms, like it's complicated. And here it was just a casual chat, almost like in a WhatsApp, and booms, it's running. So I think that's like UX is so important. Of course, the product has to be good, but I think almost like most people are able to produce good products, and that's not an important question anymore because AI helps that with that. But UX is really hard. AI doesn't help with UX because UX is such a psychological thing. Like, in this case, my friend was asking like, but in some things we make it more complicated for the user. Like chat makes some things more complicated. Let's reduce the number of steps. And I'm like, no, number of steps doesn't directly represent the ease of use. Like sometimes more steps is better than less steps, for example. Sometimes it's the opposite. Like it's such a thing, such a artistic thing. It's almost like a music or a movie that you can't use this approach the way you use for other things here. So it's hard. And I'm kind of happy with that because since like I don't see AI helping a lot there. I don't see everyone launching products with great UX, and that removes stress because from one hand you would be thinking like everybody will be launching amazing products and what's the moat, like why would my product win? But now UX is one of the reasons.
Yeah, you're hitting on a theme that's really the key to my book, to the product-driven book that I'm writing, and I think by the time this is published will be released, is that most software engineers are focused on the code, right? They're not focused on the product. They're not thinking a lot about the product itself, the customers, the users, how they use it, the user experience, like the UX, like you're talking about. Like most people just don't think that way. They want to create beautiful code, not a beautiful product. That's the problem.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
but the other underlying issue of all this is it's empathy for the user. And I have a whole chapter in my book about how important empathy is. And it's one of those things that feels like is totally lost for most software engineers. They just don't have empathy for the user, how they're using the product. And that all comes back to UX. And that's why I like this thread that we're talking about now is how important UX is and how important it is to focus on empathy for the users. But it matters even more for you because your products are largely all done based on product-led growth, right? Like you don't have a big sales team. Do you do marketing? Do you do advertising?
No. It's
just your face.
Yeah, just me, just my tweets, but it's not that much actually compared to the amount of products I have. Some products I never even tweeted. Like I had them in the list, but it's not like I done any serious threads around them.
So in regards to sales and marketing, at what point do you think you would do advertising for one of your products? I mean, it would make sense at some point, right? Like you understand the customer acquisition cost for one of these 25 products and it's time to like add some fuel to it.
Yeah, and that's why I launched this tiny ads because I thought like at some point I want to pay for growth. Also, at some point I make enough profits that I have to do something with the profits, and I don't like to invest things into random stuff. I have done that before and it never worked out. So I thought like I have to invest money back into the products, and I tried regular ads and I didn't like their performance. I didn't like all the job involved around running them, and that's when I came up with the idea of tiny ads. I felt like, it feels like all the traditional ads work well or at least work better for B2C, but not so well for B2B. And because they're all focused around social media, etc. But I think for social media, I know how to produce organic content, and I rather pay influencers rather than ads. So I think influencers are cheaper than paid ads on social media, right? So I started using tiny ads myself, and it's driving sales for products, so it works. And I think I'm pretty happy because I thought like if I find a way to make $2 on $1 I spent on ad, that's the whole picture is complete then, because that was the only thing I was missing. And also that means that I can reinvest the profits, and also I can take loans and invest into it, because now I have very good offers on revenue based loans with really low interest rate, which is so good. And I will take that and I'll put it into ads. So yeah, that's pretty much now when I started, like last week.
Well, so what advice do you have for other software engineers out there that are thinking about becoming a founder and building products and going through this process that you've went through over the last, I guess it's been 15 years now for you, but any advice for them?
I think people have to evaluate themselves well. So it's really hard to learn the empathy for the user. It's really hard to learn the content creation because it also comes down to the empathy, like whether you kind of understand the nerves and the psychology of the people and can kind of write their mood with your text. So it's really hard. It's almost like jokes. Like, can you learn to be funny? I don't know. Maybe some can, but it's so hard, right? And it's very similar thing, right? Like being funny is very similar to being good at writing content on social media, for example. So a lot of people sell the idea that you can learn everything, and I think that's true for a lot of the things, but it's true for the things where you don't compete. Like you can learn guitar, of course, for yourself, but if you want to go on the stage and compete, I'm not sure. I think then you should have been playing guitar for a long while and have natural inclination into that. So as a developer, I would do that first. I would understand what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, and I would play from there. If I'm naturally funny and I'm good at content and storytelling, great. Then go and be solopreneur, build your thing, promote your thing. You will succeed 100%. Like there is very low chance to fail in that case. All people I know who are like that, they're doing well. If you're not good at storytelling, then but good at coding, then I would rather tell you should find somebody who is good at storytelling and join the forces and do it together, because the chance of success is much higher. Of course, maybe you want to be alone and have fun with solopreneur stuff yourself, but then you have to make sure you make money somewhere else, because probably you will never make enough money from this. And I think people should not look at that as a defeat, like, oh, I'm not a good storyteller, I have to kind of be CTO. Like, I don't think that's bad. Actually, I'm jealous at those people sometimes, because it's a lot of work, a lot of stress if you're doing the marketing and you're the brand and etc. So I think both are cool and people should be cool with both, but do whatever works for you based on your natural strengths.
Do you do all your own social media stuff, or do you have people that help you do that?
No, I do it 100% all myself.
That alone is a lot of work. I mean, I
Yeah,
do
it's a lot of work.
Same myself. It's a lot of work.
And also, it's like coding is really fun. Like you feel so good when you write code and things work and you fix the bug and it works. Like, I love coding. And in social media, you have the moments when you feel amazing, when you have 1,000,000 views, and then you have moments when you have no views and you feel terrible. You feel like, oh, it's nothing works anymore. Like, people don't like my content anymore. So it's almost like the art thing. Like anything that's art is mentally difficult because it's ups and downs. And in coding, it's always cool. Like, not so often you have the hard moments.
Social media posting can feel so like soul sucking. Like, you do all the work.
Yeah, exactly.
You think you create some beautiful social media content that you put out there, and then nobody cares, right? But then I'm sure this probably happens to you a lot. And then sometimes you post these like weird random things that you don't think anybody's going to care about, and those are the ones that like take off like crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you just can't fall asleep because you didn't manage to produce any good content for a whole day, but you have to do it every day, and then you can't go to sleep. Whether with coding, you always have some fun during your day with the code. So it's never like that. So when I write code, the only moments when I hated that was when there's a bug and you have no idea what's happening. But that's rare, like once a month or even more rare. And now with AI, it never happens. Like you just ask AI and just tells you where's the bug in most cases.
So I guess final question for you as we try and wrap this up is, where's all this going for you? So you have these 25 companies. Is your goal to eventually sell a few of those? Or is this like a long-term sort of like, think about like a family office? You're like, hey, I want to own 20, 30, 40 companies forever. Like, what is the goal?
Yeah. So the goal is to build the company
cool
that
stuff.
will outlast me, so outlive me. So I want to build a holding company that will own hundreds of products. Those products will be leading products in their verticals, and it will be running for 50 years, for hundreds of years.
Okay.
And we'll build more and more. And that's kind of for me and for the world. I want all these products to help solo founders and bootstrap founders to run businesses on their own terms so that they don't have to go for VC money, because somehow I had bad experience with VCs, and I want less people to have such experience, because I think having no VC leads to a better work-life balance for a human.
I agree.
With your kids and family, and I want my products to contribute into that, so that there are more people using them, more people having wonderful families, lives, and work-life balance because of that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Any other final words of wisdom before we wrap it up?
I need 1 hour for that. I think people should. I think people should try to build something that they own, even if you're employed. I think the joy of owning what you're working on is so big that even if you're not making money on that, it's still an experience you should try and have.
I agree. I love being an entrepreneur, and just getting ready to launch my own SaaS company called Engage Path, and we're having a lot of fun building that too. And well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Again, this was John Rush. If you don't follow him on X or LinkedIn, you absolutely should. Post great content, I think, every day. So, John, thank you so much for doing this today.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for having me.
Thank you, sir. Before we wrap up today's episode, we have a special resource for you if you're looking to elevate your development team to have more of a product-driven mindset. I have a fantastic free ebook about turning your code-first team into a product-first team. Please go to fullscaleteam.com/product-first-teams to download this free ebook. There's also a link in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Product Driven, and we'll see you in the next episode.